Alright guys, so I'm back on the engine. For some reason my engine's playing up when adding the spaceship module. I'm not sure why, but we don't need that yet to this part, so we can just wait. So what I'm gonna do here is that before we start to set up the part of the ships and everything else, we need to understand how they actually did in the game and how we can actually do it in here. So basically, if we open up here good and old paint, I can try to explain. So in the No Man's Sky, when you have a ship, it's like a little road that you can travel, but the only difference is that that road doesn't load. So basically, imagine that this box is your game ship that you design yourself, and let's say that this one here is the actor, right? So it's yourself. So this is the actor. So basically, we need to make sure that every time we add a new part, we keep expanding the ship, but every time you go inside that, you are attached to that big place so you can walk around. So the first mechanic that we have to think about it is literally some kind of a building mechanic, something simple that will allow us to just place blocks within parts to allow us to build the ship, wings and landing gear and all that stuff. So to get this started, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back here to the main, and I am going to create a new folder, and here I'm going to call it building, right? Now inside the building, what I would like to do here is that we need to basically add the player the ability to craft items, or in the sense to add items or add a block or whatever to a place, right? So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to create a blueprint class, and I'm going to search for an actor component, and I'm going to call this BPC building, let's say ship building, right? That is perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up here the player itself, and I'm going to add a new component called BPC ship building. And I'm going to compile and save. And now what I'm going to do here is that on the controller itself, we need to create inputs, right? We need to handle, I think, things like when you press, I think in the game you press tab, select the parts, I'm not sure, but we can just create some kind of a selection. So the first thing we need to do here, realistically, is to go back here to the input control. So it's going to be input, and we're going to create a new input mapping, and I am going to call this IMC, I think, input mapping context, and this is going to be called space building control. Perfect. And now the inputs that we need to add, they're very simple. So I'm just going to go back to inputs again. And we need to call this EA, which is input action, and we're gonna call, let's say, open palette. That's gonna be where we're gonna select all the parts. And then we're gonna have another one, which is gonna be EA, let's say, confirm. And then for now, I'm gonna leave it the way it is, because actually I can use another one called, I can see this actually, EA rotate. All right, perfect. Now I'm going to open up my spacecraft building here. I'm going to add my mappings. So the first one you want to add is the palette, right? Then we want to add the rotate, and then we want to add the confirm. All right, now for the palette, I want to make sure that when I press tab, for the rotate, it's going to be mouse up. Actually, I need rotate up, and I'm going to duplicate that and rotate down, because you realistically only go up and down, right? So we're just going to go back here. So the up one is going to be, sorry, mouse wheel up. And here I'm gonna just select, let me just delete that here. Mouse wheel down, And then I'm gonna add another one. It's gonna be the confirm button. All right. And then the confirm button is just gonna be a normal click, left click. Now that we have all these things properly set up, we need to edit the player controller reference from here, right? So usually what I like to do is, I can delete this. I think I can get the owner, right? So what I'm gonna do is that print this, and I can print. Let's see if that's gonna work. If I press play, I should see BP Spaceman, which is fine. This is the owner, right? So the owner from that is the player POM. From the player POM, the reason why I add these things on the player POM, because when you're building a spaceship, you're building with the player. You're not building with the controller. Although the controller is responsible to assert things that are on the server, but you're building with your player. If I am to explain you guys how this works basically, and you can skip this by the way, it's just that some people sometimes like this. Imagine that this is your player controller. So the player controller has a player POM, which is what you actually move with the game. But what we're trying to do here is we're trying to build a spaceship. So the actions are driven by the player, and then you only use the controller to conform in the world. So what we got to do here is that we need to get our player POM, right? So what we can do here is that we can get POM or get controller, get character or get POM, get what can we get here? Get level, get actor. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna create this in a much more strict way this time. So I'm going to create a new folder called inputs. I'm just going to move all those inputs right to this folder, and I'm going to create here a blueprint class, a blueprint interface, and I'm going to call this BPI ship building interface. All right, now on this interface, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna call a method called return player controller. Controller. Perfect. Now what we need to do is that on the output, player controller. Nice. And this is going to be called player controller. Player controller. Make sure it's an object. Perfect. Now, if you guys are if you've never worked a blueprint interface before, it's just a way that we avoid casting. Okay. Now, the way the blueprint interface works is that we need to attach that to our player. So we're going to go back here to our player. I'm going to go to class settings. And here we have interfaces. I'm just going to search for BPI, which stands for blueprint interface. And you see that's going to pop up a new menu here called return player controller. So what are you going to do? Get controller. And you put it right here. Player controller cast is telling me to cast the player controller, which usually I'm not. I think I can get player controller. So get controller rotation, get local viewing controller, get player controller. Okay, what we're gonna do here is that we are gonna do a cast on the begin play. There's a character and stuff. So get begin play, and in here we casted whatever to a player controller. And what we're gonna do is then promote to a variable, and we're gonna call this player controller. Unfortunately, I had to cast it, but that's fine. It's better to do once than actually do twice when it comes to casting. And in here, we are just going to do that. And that's it. Now you have the player controller reference, which is everything you need. So now what happened, on the begin play here, we can call return player controller message. And now we have access to the player controller. And now you're probably asking, but why do we need this player controller? I'm going to explain you in a second. So let's just double check this is working properly. So we did, doesn't look like, why is it not working properly? Is everything set up here properly? So it is. So I'm just going to do a print. Hello. Yeah. That's fine. So we're going to get the owner player, which is fine. So it's coming back. And here is getting return player controller. Maybe what I'm thinking is that this is casting controller. Let me just do a print here to make sure that whatever is my controller is the proper one. So BP Spaceship Building controller, right? So it's fine. I see why. Sorry guys, what you're gonna have to do instead of begin play, it's because we need a time for this to start properly. Let's just create a custom event called API start building manager. The reason why I'm doing this is related to time, because you need to give the engine some time to cast it properly. So what we're doing here is that instead of telling the engine on the begin play, we just say cast it, make sure the controller exists, and then you get the shipping controller, and then you just call API start building manager, right? Now we're going to compile and save, and now we should see the player controller right there. Now before I finish, I know this is getting a little bit long and start to get a little bit boring after a while, but I want to make sure that we load our event, at least one event. And the way I'm going to do this is that this part, it's all good. All you got to do here is just promote this to player controller, and you just leave it here, right? Start the player controller reference. Reference, perfect. We may even need the POM reference as well, but we can do everything with the interface this time. So now that we have this, all I can do here is that call the event, let's call EA. Let me double check, how do we call those inputs again? It's just called EA open palette. Yes. And now when we try to open the palette on completed, we can do a print. So if we press play, nope, did not work. Trigger, that worked. Let's see. It's not working. Perfect. This is because we need to tell now the engine to load the events. So how you do this is simple. You just go back to our character. I already have done this twice, which is this. So what you're gonna do here, go back to the player on here, right? So we're gonna paste that, and we're gonna get enhanced player subsystem. Yeah, make sure you get from the controller. Don't do this. So you're gonna plug it right here. And this one you can delete it. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to load the IMC space building control. Perfect. And now that should be everything we're going to do. Now our tab should be working. As you can see, that is doing multiple times. Ideally you want to do, I think it's just on the started, so you can start to trigger, you know, the palettes and whatever you want to do. Alright guys, so that's everything I wanted to teach for this lesson. So what we're going to be doing here is that in the next one, we're going to do, I think we're going to start first with the place item mechanic. and then after we do the boring UI stuff. All right. Once again, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I see you in the next one.